personally, anyone that knows me for any length of time knows that I'm a go big or go home type of guy. If it's worth doing, it's worth doing well. And if I believe in something, then I believe in it enough to take the leap.
Keep it nerdy. Keep it nerdy. Keep it real nerdy. Nerdpreneur, you know I love my work. Life's a game, so I'ma take my turn. Nerds deserve to put their passion first. Let them rap a verse so they can all be heard.
Yeah, my nerdy passion basically is drawing.
Correct. I'm a breeder of tarantulas, importing tarantulas and some other critters.
I am a harpist. I do mainly Celtic harp, video game songs, songs from nerdy TV shows.
Obviously, I'm big on Star Trek.
It is creature design, fantastical biological creations out of watercolor.
We are dice retailers.
Nerdpreneur, you know I love my work. Life's a game, so I'ma take my turn. Nerds deserve to put their passion first, so let them rap a verse so they can all be heard.
Welcome to Nerdpreneur, where we have fun conversations with people making money with their nerdy passion. My name is Chris, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Frank.
Hello.
And today we have a very special guest for you. His name is Patrick Rami, and he's from Lethal Shadows Game. Welcome to the show, Patrick.
Thanks for having me here.
Well, Patrick, what is your nerdy passion?
Yeah, I mean, the core of our business and our main focus obviously is miniatures. So we focus on elevating the miniatures available for folks to bring to their table, which should elevate their gameplay ideally, and also make it more fun to paint them. We actually just heard recently at a show, someone came by and said, "Man, I have nothing to do with minis, but I really these minis make me want to find something to do with minis." So that's our core focus with the miniature side of things.
Completely agree. To someone who doesn't know or maybe doesn't paint that's listening, what sets your minis apart from other minis?
It's going to be detail level. So a lot of miniatures are mass produced. Every model that we produce is master grade, and that's not marketing slang for anything, right? That's truly an actual thing. So when you are doing injection molding, you have a master made, which is absolutely perfect in every way. You make your molds from that, but every time you do a pull from a mold, it degrades the mold, and eventually you have to remake them, right? So depending on how late your model is in a batch, you might get a much degraded mold. Whereas ours are master grade every time. The process we use to make our models is the same process we use to make masters for other companies that come to us for their injection molding needs, right? So you're getting a master grade model every single time. And we have in-depth quality control measures to make sure that only the best makes it out the door. And that's really what people, they can't put their finger on it. They're like, this is just amazing. I don't understand why. And that's what it boils down to.
Mm-hmm. The quality. Yeah. Good quality manufacturing and clearly detail. That was what stood out to me, was the details on your models were something that just stood out. And I used to do Warhammer, so I did some like model stuff, and I remember painting things painstakingly, and I was like, these would be fun to paint. Like, you could actually get behind getting excited about painting these things because they're so detailed. Where did the passion for you kind of come in? Were you a Warhammer person or something like that got you into doing minis, or how did you jump into that?
Yeah, so first of all, huge shout out to our sculptors, right? I'm not a sculptor. Without them, we would not be where we are. We wouldn't have the raw materials to do what we do, right? So huge shout out to our in-house sculptors, and huge shout out to the sculptors we license throughout the world. We have, literally over 100 sculptors we work with all over the world. And without them, like I said, we would not be here. As far as my passion for miniatures, I always had a respect for folks that could do that could paint models and make them look that good at that small scale, that could have the patience to stick with it, right? So I always admired folks like that. And then what started this road was I was hosting a D&D game for our friends at home, and I had bought a model off the shelf, just one of the big brands available, And when I put it on the table, they couldn't figure out what it was. Right? Was it an ogre? Was it a troll? Was it an orc? Like what was it? And I'm like, man, we deserve better. Like this could be a lot better. And when I looked at it more closely, it was like there was flashing all around it. The weapon was bent. It was just not good. And it took a lot of work to try to paint it. And that got me into the 3D printing road. And I was like, well, just for fun, just for us. I have a kind of a scientific mind where I just keep pushing the envelope and keep trying to figure out why. Like, not okay, this just looks bad, but what makes it look bad? And then okay, how can we change that? And little inch by inch, bit by bit, hyper focused for like 6 to 8 months, buying numerous printers and then modifying them and then modifying the cleaning and curing process, and to the point where when I came out of it and I showed friends, they're like, this is worlds better than anything available right now. I would buy this in a heartbeat. And I thought, they're my friends. They're just being nice, right? They're blowing smoke. They're being nice. Like, sure. So we went to a local. My wife and I went to a local toy swap meet nearby. Brought a tub of these models, and we happened to find a booth from a local game store that had a booth there. And I was like, "Hey guys, just want to get your opinion. Like, what do you guys think?" And I happened to be talking to the owner and his right hand man, who's a huge minis fan, paints minis and plays with them all the time. And he's like, "Stop! I need to buy these from you right now. Like, I need these personally." And he's like, "Yes, these are amazing. Come by the store. We'll chat about potentially carrying them or seeing what we can do with you."
So
And sure enough, yeah, did it.
Your nerd brain really got you going into this hyper focus of quality, right? So, like, I've heard, I don't know, I've heard that before with other guests that we've talked to, where there's like this hyper focus on something that gets them to quality. Do you think that the nerd brain like, if it's, I've always felt if the nerd brain is targeted properly towards the right thing, it can be super valuable. But if it's not targeted the right way, it could be very detrimental, like playing video games all the time,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting if you look at humans like to be generalists, right? We
Mhm.
do a little bit of everything just well enough to survive, right? You
Mhm.
cook, you clean, you take care of your wounds, right? You do repairs around the house just well enough to get by. If you take cooking, for example, we know it, we live it, we eat 3 times a day. You can cook at home, but if you really hyper focus on that and you're like, man, okay, there's a balance between acidity and fat and salt, and
Yeah.
so you start to push the envelope, right? You are now improving past what the average person would do and would even care to do at home. There's
Mhm.
recipe books all over the world. There's recipe websites. But people would rather go out to a nice restaurant and
Or hit
have this really nice
DoorDash.
meal, right? Or hit DoorDash, right, and
Yeah.
have something delivered to their door. So same thing with our hobby space. 3D printers are readily available all over the world. As a matter of fact, we now sell our own resin because folks loved it, because we want to enable them to be able to
Mm.
do their own printing. But some of our biggest fans and customers have 3D printers of their own. They just don't want to bother having to learn how to master this and get it to that degree. Sure, you can print a mini at home,
Mhm.
but will it be the same quality and caliber, and do you want to bother with that, right? So I think any focus, any passion you have, if you focus it deep enough down that rabbit hole, you will surpass what the average person wants to do or is willing to, wants to, right, and is capable of, just because you focused. That's how we spend our time.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, Frank, remember Wishmaster saying the same thing about making beats? Like, this is a guy who was a Grammy nominated, sort of,
Oh,
Grammy nominated, like, award winning beat maker, worked with Nelly, all sorts of things. Like, and
wow.
when he interviewed with us, he was saying, well, I used to just lock myself in the basement and make beats. And I'd make like 16 to 20 beats in a day and just hyper focus, hyper focus, hyper focus. And all of a sudden, after doing that for a long time, you wind up with this skill level that so far surpasses where we initially were, where the average person would. And for him, it was learning how to use this software to create beats, right? for you though, you're like, you might be the Grammy winner of minis, right? Like if you want, if there were, I guess there are awards for painting and stuff like that, but like in terms of design and using say 3D printing to get to world class levels, you've done some of that heavy lifting, that heavy work to get there. um that's awesome. That's what we look for, is that nerd passion turned into a business. uh I'm curious, when you get started in your business, I mean, if you're hyper focused on quality, good stuff. uh I've heard business is pretty hard too. Like it's not just about, oh, I have this thing that I make here, buy it. Where did you guys go to like turn pro from this being sort of, oh, I make these for my friends, for our games, and now, how did you go to this scale model where you're actually selling enough to be doing this full time, right? This is your
Yeah,
main gig.
it is. It's pretty interesting, kind of how that happened. We were very small, and we were looking to do Emerald City Comic Con for the first time. 2020 was supposed to be our very first convention, and we had begged and just eked into a small 6x8 beginner booth. We were going to have one table, maybe 10 different models on the table, and like a couple little signs, and that's it. And then maybe a little cash box, right? And we've all seen those booths, and I love those guys. It takes a lot of courage to be out there and a lot of work to be out there and make a few bucks.
Mm-hmm.
We had everything ready. We had some friends lined up. We had some T-shirts made, and obviously COVID hit. And Emerald City Comic Con that year did not cancel until 10 days before the show.
Oh my gosh, really?
So yes,
Wow.
so it was a blow. Everyone was deflated. I had already left my job. Um, it was rough, and we were all really worried. So it was a fork in the road. Do you turn back and hightail it back to a cubicle and work that 9 to 5 that's secure with this impending pandemic coming? Or what we chose to do was we believed in it. We hunkered down and we focused. Once again, you hyper focus on the areas you do have access to. We didn't have access to conventions, so we couldn't do that. But we did everything else. We worked on our website. We worked on our logistics in the background. We tore down and rebuilt our garage, our two-car garage, to make it into a full-service laser shop. Um, I designed our booth from scratch, and we're ready to come back. And now, 2021, Emerald City Comic Con is supposed to be in March. We were told, hey, we're going to do a show in November. Nobody was there. No big names. Nobody. It was vacant. So once again, you strike when you can. And I said, okay, how about this? I will take a larger booth, a 10 by 20 double corner, much larger booth, but I get first right of refusal going forward in perpetuity until I don't. And they were like, sure, whatever you want. Come on in. We've got nobody. Let's go. So,
Wow.
In perpetuity.
So this means
yeah.
you always got first choice of the prime real estate in the future. Just so people understand what you just said there, because I know when you say it like that, it's like a very inside term. But essentially, when negotiating with ECC, right, you were like, hey, in perpetuity, this prime location with large amount of space, I get first right to refuse that, and then or at least first choice to pick it, right? And before anyone else who comes in. So if Wizards of the Coast comes in and says, I want that booth, they got to check with Patrick from Lethal Shadows before. That's
Yeah,
a
so we
great
basically
negotiation.
can't. So you can't be pushed out, right?
Yeah.
So
That's
we're okay
awesome.
with it kind of being shifted around a little bit, but we're never going to lose that 10 by 20. And we've
Yeah.
since then expanded it to a 20 by 20. So we were only able to secure that because of where we were. So while everybody was running and scared about not
Mhm.
being able to make their money back, I saw it as an investment. We're buying into the future of
Yeah.
Lethal Shadows at our local show. So now they're back to being completely full and having a wait list, right?
Wow.
So had the 2020 show gone through normally, right, and COVID not happened, we would probably still be stuck in a 10 by 10 inline at best, and not been able to grow. So that was an opportunity that showed itself. We really made the best of it.
How did you navigate? Because what you just distilled was a moment of seeing an opportunity and just saying, "Hey, I'm going to take a shot at it." What was that process like for you? Were you aware of it? Was it just kind of shot in the dark?
Well, you've got to have situational awareness, right? Like with anyone that plays the stock market, you're not just looking at the stock you're targeting. You're looking at the whole market. You're looking at world events. You're looking at how other people and human nature, right? How people are likely to react. So, looking at the lineup of people they had listed for that year, it was nothing. It was like it was out of season. It was November instead of March. People were still very afraid of COVID. None of the big names were coming. There were mass mandates. So I knew that they would be hurting to get anybody in. And I knew they were trying to not miss 2 years. They missed 2020. And if they didn't do a show in November, they would miss 2021 as well. So that would be 2 years in the books and zero. So I knew that I had all the leverage in the world. And not only did we get that deal, but we also got a discount on the booth because it wasn't going to be a super big show. And since then, Reed Pop and Emerald City Comic Con have been great partners. Last year we did the paint and take with them, and we've really grown together in that community.
Well, I'm sure they appreciated you sticking with them because nobody else did. A lot of other places, that's why they were suffering, right? And so the loyalty is rewarded, and I think that's what's very cool about people in that time period. Was there are certain restaurants that I remained loyal to during that time because I did not want them to close, And I think that we when you do that, and when that happened, we have a lot of we have a lot more quality places that have really stuck with it, that relationship that you built. You mentioned cons. Maybe we can go in that direction of some of the keys to cons, because you've done well. The first thing I wanted to talk about, you mentioned that you, in your story, had a corporate job, cubicle, right? And that you left that anticipating going to cons. And very commonly, nerdpreneurs use that leap into cons as their foundation for making money and going after it for that amount of time. And there's two philosophies when you start a business. There's this kind of burn the boats and go after it and like jump right in. And it sounds like you kind of had that mentality. And then we have other people that they kind of keep their job until they have some savings, and they kind of iterate back and forth between options and test and test and test until they finally get to a place where they can feel confident leaving that job. Do you have an opinion on which of those is better?
Yeah, those are certainly two viable strategies, right? Nothing I'm about to say means that the other strategy is not viable. It is for sure viable. And it's all about what risk people can stomach. Just like entering any sort of investment, you're stomaching a certain amount of risk. The less risk you stomach, the less likely to have huge gains in the short term, but it's safer, right? Me personally, anyone that knows me for any length of time knows that I'm a go big or go home type of guy. If it's worth doing well. And if I believe in something, then I believe in it enough to take the leap. So we were going for that leap. We were going for shows in a big way. We were already planning on booking other events later in the year. Those obviously weren't as impactful because we had a bigger lead time to cancel. But yeah, it was certainly a leap. It was scary, and anyone that tells you otherwise is not telling the truth. Even now, where everyone sees us as an established brand, as a household name, it's still scary. Sometimes you kind of have those weird dry seasons, right? We'll have like 2 days where not a single order comes through, and you're like, "What is broken? What's happening? What's going on?" Right? And then like a flurry of orders come through, and it's because payday was a little odd, or it was tax season, or whatever it is, right? There are these elements that kind of put a cloud over our business momentarily, but you just gotta just focus, just keep doing the best you can, keep focusing on your core tenets, right? And then that will lead you through it.
Speaking of this fear, you mentioned a moment ago about when COVID hit and you had already made all of this planning. How do you navigate that kind of fear when the rug is pulled out from under you?
Yeah. You have to be aware of it, right? You have to be aware of it. You don't want to entirely stick your head in the sand. You've got to. Fear is interesting. Fear is a warning system built into us, and we don't always know why, right? So first step is identifying why. Is what am I afraid of? Exactly what is concerning me? okay, now I've put a name to it, I've identified it. How can I mitigate it? How can I prepare for it? And you do that as best you can. And sometimes you can't do anything, right? All you can do is keep doing the best you can. And instead of sitting there and stressing, not sleeping, right, biting your nails, not eating well, getting ill, that just adds to your problems. You start focusing on something positive, on doing something impactful, whether it be for yourself, the community, or the business, right? And I'm telling you, solutions present themselves. They really do.
Mhm.
And worst case scenario, you've got to have a plan, a contingency for a worst case scenario, whether it be a small fund of money set aside, whether it be, a backup skill that you can go back to. Like during the early days, IT is my background. I did some freelance IT work on, in some dry areas here and there, just to pad our numbers a little bit. But fear is going to be there. You have got to understand it, you have got to embrace it, and then you've got to push through it, right?
Mhm.
Like uncertainty is human nature.
And you can only really be brave when there's fear present, right? And so at least that's what the old hero adage is that it's actually important to experience the fear and go past it. Um, and I think also we mentioned they're just identifying what it is exactly, because sometimes we don't know. And you just said it casually, but I really think that's important because sometimes what we're really afraid of is very internal. It's not even out there. It's not even the outside. Because
Tell me about it.
right, it's really like, oh, I'll look foolish, or I told all these people I was starting something and then nothing happened and I failed. Like these are the kind of entrepreneurial fears when you put yourself out there. I wanted to ask, did you have like a support network around you, or did you have other entrepreneurs that you got to talk to, or would maintain that inspiration during those times, or hold you accountable in some ways? Because I know that's helped other people before, is having a
Yeah,
community.
it's interesting. I I have had an entrepreneurial streak in me for a long time.
Hmm.
Um, it started when I was in high school. There was a business program called Virtual Enterprise, where you in the classroom you would have a role in different departments, marketing, accounting, auditing, HR, the whole nine, and you would learn the inner workings of a company,
Hmm.
just to have a basic understanding of what an org chart is, what is the difference between a VP and a manager, and what is the difference between marketing and sales and accounting, right? Um, so I always had that drive, and ironically, I my teacher during that time was a mentor of mine, lifelong mentor and friend. Um, we kind of had kind of a separation. Like we didn't talk for a long time, and we haven't really reconnected. And I reached out during that time, like, hey, let me bounce some ideas, let me chat. And he kind of was unresponsive, and I'm sure was dealing with his own things, right? So I kind of had the net kind of pulled out from under me,
Mm.
where that network of help was not available. Um, and you kind of fall back on your knowledge, right? Like you've got to squash that imposter syndrome. Like you've got to be able to rally yourself,
Mm.
just introspectively think about it. I'm smart, I am capable, people have paid me a lot of money to do IT work, and I can pick up, intellectually speaking, I pick up ideas very quickly, and I have a good understanding and grasp of things very quickly. So reminding myself of this
Mm.
and helping me remember that I've got the tools at my disposal to make these decisions for myself without acknowledgement from anyone else. I don't need it.
Mm.
And you need to be self empowered and self driven sometimes. And I'm very grateful that I was able to do that. But you've got to remember that imposter syndrome is very real,
Mm.
and that everyone feels it, everyone goes through it. You name the most successful person you think exists in the world, they have had it or have it currently, right? And I think that if you don't have imposter syndrome at some point in your life, there's something not quite right there,
Yeah, you
right?
might not be growing or doing something hard, right? Because the
Yeah,
first step to becoming good at something is usually being real bad and pretending that you're good at it, right? Like at
right.
least trying to give yourself the belief that you can do it. But that's, you got to believe in yourself, like what you said, and that's, I really glad we got to that, because uh, I think the listeners, people might be aspiring to be entrepreneurs or are entrepreneurs right now in the nerdy space. They're going through that. Like they have gone through that. I
Hmm.
guarantee it.
Hmm.
Um, what like in your first few years, well, let's say once you start, I know, what are some of the lessons that you would pull from those first few years if you were to go back and talk to
Mm.
yourself and say, hey, what would you do differently for those first couple of years in business
Yeah.
to grow faster, maybe?
Um, I would say plan for success, right?
Mm,
A lot of people plan for failure and they end up having to redo work and spend more money and repurchase things, right? What I mean by that specifically is, for example, when I designed our website, I planned and designed the site in a way that we would be able to have 100,000 minis or more on the site. So it was very difficult to set up the infrastructure to support that early on. And people were like, you only have 15,
mm-hmm,
right? You could list that in 10 minutes, if that, and then be done. But it's not scalable, right? We aren't ready to capture success if the success comes knocking on the door. So you've got to plan for success and you've got to think, okay, what if I was doing tenfold or 100-fold work? Would that still work? Is it scalable? And you can't always scale up to the max, right? We didn't
mm-hmm,
we didn't buy $100,000 printing machines on day one, but the things you can scale early or prepare for scale early at no additional cost or very minimal additional cost, do it. Be
mm-hmm.
ready for it, right? And capture those things. Believe in yourself enough to, instead of doing month to month hosting costs, buy the 3-year plan that has a 50% discount or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
Pay for that up front. Now you've got those savings built in, and you're now likely to be grandfathered into that pricing for the future.
And there's
When
also like a level of just commitment that you're giving yourself there too,
Yeah.
around like, one big shift in my first business ever was not thinking in terms of month to month, because I was struggling to pay my rent at the end of the month, my
Hmm.
commercial rent, and instead making the commitment, I'm going to be here for 3 years. And
Hmm.
when you started thinking that way, it shifted everything in your mind towards
Hmm.
where your opportunities were, because maybe an opportunity working with ECC this year
Hmm.
isn't available, but you were thinking long term, like 3 years, 4 years from now, this is going to be an incredible advantage for us to have this, this booth and do all this, right? And so the ability to think longer term in business, it just that horizon line.
Hmm.
So yeah, buy the cheaper package, because it does up your commitment, I guess too, right? You're
Yeah,
thinking longer term that way.
absolutely.
Sorry, Frank, go ahead.
Yeah, no, it's a great point. You mentioned the idea of investing, thinking for the long term, and this reminds me of another common topic of and I would like to know what is your opinion on investing in the self? So sometimes
Mm.
small businesses, they're like, "Oh, I don't." A common one I've seen is, "I don't want to invest in Adobe." And that whole,
Mm.
like, all of the things that it goes with,
Sure.
but it's also like, well, but then shouldn't I be investing in myself though?
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a great point. Your tools are key, right? You could have all the skill and talent you want, but if you're using inadequate tools or just the wrong tool altogether, you can eventually get there, but it took you a lot longer. The end product may not be as good, right? And you certainly can't scale with that. So investing in self, whether it be software or even classes or certifications or just one-on-one training that you can hire someone to have with you to kind of get you started, like, those things are going to be invaluable. Mind you, there are a lot of scams out there, right, for classes and whatnot, so you want to avoid that. You want to look at the credentials the individual has and what success they've had, right? But you want to invest in yourself and your tools. We didn't go out there buying $100,000 printers when we started, but you also didn't buy the cheapest printer available. You kind of weigh that out and get through the marketing jargon and actually look at, okay, what is an impactful difference, right? I don't care that the cover on this printer is extra shiny and fingerproof. It doesn't give me a better print. So cut through the marketing BS and look at what is impactful to the end product and to your quality of life while you're using it.
Yeah, the marketing BS is real. It's funny that you point that out to me because I work in marketing, but it's finding that important line of what is a real feature and benefit versus what just sounds cool. One small example that I always find hilarious. My day job is in the construction industry. I will tell you, every tool out there, every toolbox has an ergonomic grip.
Right. Yeah.
What the hell does that? I know what it means, but
Sure.
like, how is that a differentiator? It's no longer a feature anymore, really.
Yeah, and you'll learn to spot. There's going to be buzz terms that come up, right? Uh, One we saw a long time ago was HD. All of a sudden, everything was HD,
High
right?
definition. Yeah.
So yeah, it was HD. This is HD drill, right? You have
Yeah.
an, so it's like HD fan. Like okay, they're just throwing the term out there because it's a commonly used term.
Mm-hmm.
Then it was 3D, right? 3D this, 3D that, 3D drill, 3D fan. Like, so AI, now it's AI. AI this fan has AI,
Right.
this drill
Yeah.
has AI. Like, you'll see these buzzwords and don't let them fool you, right? Get to the nitty gritty and see what the pros are using.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's a fair point. Yeah. See what the pros are using.
So with so how is your business now functioning as far as, is it really con heavy, or is there stuff you do with like online sales that is the majority? Like how does it work now? Because I know cons were how you kind of got started and built it,
mhm.
but what is it now?
Yeah, so we've always, so technically we started online first, but that's a
Oh,
tough
okay.
hill to climb
Yeah.
because unless you're on Etsy or you're on Amazon or you're on something else, we specifically stayed off of those platforms. We've just had our site, so it's a very tough hill to climb. I will let everyone listening know. Um, Amazon will get you a ton of foot traffic, but they will take 50, 55, 60% of your profit. Etsy will get you a bunch of foot traffic, but now you're competing for the race to the bottom, the cheapest prices, and they're still going to take 30% for your profit. So your website is going to be the best investment you can make it to yourself. However, you are now competing against Etsy and Amazon and everything else for foot traffic and attention.
Mm.
So, in my opinion, it's worth building your own brand, your own website. It's going to be a slog. It's going to take literally years to get actual natural traffic happening, organic traffic happening. But in my mind, it's worth it, right? We're not on Amazon. We're not on Etsy. We're not on any other platform. Um, so that was our first start. Then we went into conventions and doing shows, and that's been a huge boon, right? Because it's double. It's a two-prong attack. You do sell, sales are good, and you do a lot of marketing. People actually get to learn and see you and talk to you, and it's a personal touch, right? For our product is a very tactile product. Anyone can show you renders of a model. That's the problem with Etsy. Every single listing has a render of a model, but what does it look like? What does it feel like? How durable is it? Does it have to be cleaned up afterwards, right? We do all the post cleaning ourselves. So what happens is at a show, people will pick up the mini and be like, wow, this looks amazing. Wow, this is easy to assemble. Holy smokes, this is flexible and durable. There's actual, it's heavier because of the density of our resin. um, those things for us are invaluable. We can't show that through the internet, and because there's so much marketing BS going on, if we say the words, they just flow right over. Right?
Mm.
Doesn't mean anything. Everyone's overstimulated and saturated with that.
Hmm. Do you guys do like when people buy from you, do you collect customer info as far as, emails and things like that, so that when you come out with new collections, you can let people know, that kind of thing, and drive more online sales outside of the live events? Or is that,
Yeah. So on our website, anytime you sign up for the newsletter or sign up for the site or you make a purchase, we have you kind of added to a mailing list. Obviously, everybody could opt out by law. You have to
yeah, of course, yeah.
follow the ICANN spam laws. But yeah, we also make sure not to abuse our newsletters.
Hmm.
At most, we will send one a month
Hmm.
because we don't want people to just glaze over. And because of that, we have a high open rate and we have a high click through rate. If you abuse your readers, right, your customers, they're just going to delete it without even opening it.
Hmm.
But We only make a newsletter whenever we have a substantial announcement to make, only once a month. If that, sometimes it's once every 2 months. So we see it as a very valuable resource, and a very valuable one to build up and to not abuse.
Yeah.
You also don't pay for email lists. Don't buy those. Those
No.
are the worst.
No, they're not good. That's like
Yeah, we get offered
instant,
that all the
yeah,
time.
deliverability death too.
Yeah,
It'll kill, like you if you get caught spamming some of those,
yeah,
it can kill your business. So
yeah. It does. It can blacklist your domain as well, so you
yeah,
won't even get mail
exactly.
out. As for shows, we do not capture emails from attendees. That is a service offered by most conventions where you can pay $3,000 to $5,000 um, to get a list of people going to your booth. Specifically speaking, how that works is they can't sell an email list. It's not with the rules.
Hmm.
So what they do is they give you a device that when everybody comes to the booth and they check out, you can scan their badge
Hmm.
to enter a contest or whatever, right?
Yeah.
A gift contest and or raffle, rather. That's what I'm thinking of. They then take that and harness those emails and give them to you. So as an exhibitor, it sounds tempting. We've considered it,
Hmm.
but it feels disingenuous,
Hmm.
right? So instead, we have QR codes that you can scan and sign up for our newsletter there.
Hmm.
It's more organic. You know you're doing it. You're aware of it.
Hmm.
Once again, we try to be the good we want to see in our hobby.
Hmm.
You were talking about, there's several things here, but the first thing I want to ask is finding a balance in communicating with your audience. How do you do that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are. That is a daily struggle. So, and what I mean by that is we have a lot of initiatives. We have a lot of things going on between updates to the site, new product releases, right? QC for our everyday sales, prepping for conventions, wholesale partnerships. So I am at the nexus of that, of everything there. And we have tried hiring people to manage our online platform, social media manager, and it is so difficult to find a very good social media manager who understands the brand, the voice. It's not cheap and it's very hard. So we've not found them. We've tried a few. They haven't worked out. So now my wife and I, are the voice of Lethal Shadow. So whenever you see a post, it's usually her, and we kind of chat it over, make sure it's good, and it goes out. Um, so it's very difficult. So right now, one of our weaknesses is our social media presence. We do not harness, we don't leverage it. We have a lot of followers, so we don't leverage it as much as I would like to. However, I do think that a positive of that is that people aren't burnt out from seeing our stuff. And whenever we do put something out, we have a lot of reactions to it. We have a lot of traction to it. So I'm really grateful for that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm pretty engaged in engaged. I guess the algorithm understands me pretty well. Let's put it that way, that I really like that content where, those really good painters show you how they're doing
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and creating content like that is hard. It's
Yeah.
like they've got a great setup, they've got plus their
Mm-hmm.
skills, and even paying for something like that to be made is just not cost effective.
Yep. Yep. I'm going through that right now.
Yeah, it's hard.
Well, you have a very high fulfillment company too, right? Like it's not like you're selling just information. You're selling products, like physical things
Mm-hmm.
that have to be crafted and honed, and then some of them are even painted for people, right? Like I think you offer painting even of the
Mm-hmm.
minis if people want to have their mini painted by a pro so it looks awesome and it comes, they can take it out of the box and just play. Like
Yeah.
that's really good, but that's pretty high fulfillment. That means it's not just you doing everything. You've got to have a
Yeah.
team, you've got to have
Yeah.
infrastructure.
Yep.
um, all of that comes with extra expense, extra money, extra risk. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
how did you get to where you're at now, where like you clearly have a large amount of infrastructure to be able to deliver on all of this this level of business? And was
Yeah.
it just a gradual thing, or did you have to hit plateaus? Like, how did you approach that?
Definitely gradual. Um, an exercise that kind of to help people kind of center themselves and make a path forward would be to Think of like Amazon, right? If I asked you to give me a roadmap to how you would recreate Amazon to get it to where it is today, right? Your mind would be blown. You would be like, there are so many things, like it's so mind blowing. So instead, don't do that. A lot of people try to do that. They're like, I want to be the next Sony. How do I? No, that's just not right. You want to plan for success. You want to plan for the future. However, you do not want to live in it. So focus on what you can achieve and do right now. Everyone's abilities, means, and stage in life is going to be different. That's what makes us unique, right? Some folks are going to be very well off and they've got $100,000 to start, $500,000 to start. They can have kind of a lead in that. However, the path should be the same from that point out. Some folks have $100 in a dream, right? And that's enough. And you can do that. Identify where you can start and do that extremely well. Like, I don't think people realize, it's so funny. We're sold in social media right now a lot of this like entrepreneurial ultra success overnight. And it's like people get lost in that. And whenever they don't achieve that, they get frustrated and they feel like they're a failure.
Right.
Right? Here's a reality, guys. To succeed, it's very, very simple. All you have to do is do what you do very well, consistently, and keep your word. That's it. Do it well, be consistent, keep your word. Super simple, right? Doesn't matter how small of a company or a start you have. It could be crocheting hats and you get one done a month, right? It could be whatever you want it to be, but follow those tenets, right? Do it well, be consistent, keep your word. And you have already surpassed most people out there with doing those three things.
Hey, Nerdpreneurs, we'll get back to finishing off this interview with Patrick in just a minute. But first, I wanted to thank all of our amazing and awesome board members for continuing to support the podcast. We cannot do what we do, going to cons, interviewing amazing people like Patrick, without your support. If you'd like to support us, and if you'd like to get completely uncut, full interviews, including the ones we do live on site at cons like ECC or PAX West, we have them all on our Patreon. Go to patreon.com/nerdpreneur to join the awesome Nerdpreneur board. It does cost a little jingle, but well worth it, and you're helping to support the show and help us grow. If you can't do that, one thing you can do that's absolutely free is give us a review on Apple Podcasts. It just helps more people find the show and continues to raise our rating. Here's an example of one of the great reviews that we've got on Apple Podcasts. This is from Captain Henley. The interesting world of how to make a passion a profession. If you were ever wondering, how do people make money at that? Here's your answer. Thank you so much, Captain Henley. We are sending you out a lot of love. Now let's get back to the show. Should we do some random rolls and then wrap up with some last questions? What do you think?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, let's do that. So random rolls is a less serious, more fun series of questions. You're going to roll the D100. We have a list here of questions for each number. So whenever you're ready, roll your first number, please.
All right, let's see. What do we got? We got 52.
If you get a portal gun, what's the first place you're going to go?
Oh, that's kind of cool. First place I would go. Honestly, I'd probably go to like the Roman Colosseum. I really want to check that out and see. And I'm sure I could get some like high vantage points that aren't easy to get to with that. So you can kind of see some cool stuff there.
Definitely. That's awesome. The Roman Colosseum, would you is this a time traveling portal gun or is this like going back in time?
I mean, I'll see it in present day. It's something that I've been wanting to see, right? Maybe even access it like, I don't know, when there's nobody around. Like I'm understanding it's pretty well lit, so you can go in the middle of the night or whatever it is. So yeah,
that'd be cool. I hear that the underground part of it is pretty wild too. It's kind of a maze because that's where they would keep the animals and so they also had to like traverse underneath, like kind of like a football stadium, right?
Yeah.
The players have to be able to go around underneath and get where they got to go.
Yeah. It reminds me of the movie Jumper. I actually often think of that. If I had that power, you can transport yourself to anywhere you can see a photo of. Like that would be a really cool power.
Yeah.
Very neat.
I'd take a lot of photos.
Yeah, right.
Everywhere you go, yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead and roll again, please.
All right, let's do it. 33.
33. All right. What is your zombie apocalypse plan?
Oh man, zombie apocalypse plan. Um, Probably not very original, but like try to hunker down in like a Costco or something, like somewhere with plenty of supplies, somewhat defensible, and like can block it off and stuff like that. So supplies will be the hardest thing to keep in my thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no kidding. Especially the perishables after a while. Like,
Yeah,
what are you gonna
eat
do?
the non-canned stuff first, and then save on. Yeah.
I've played my fair share of zombie games, and it's always like,
Sure.
okay, all right, first month, it's all the perishables, even if they're still gross.
There really should be a zombie movie that takes place in a Costco. Like that's a great homage to like the time period when it like Dawn of the Dead was all about being in a mall, but malls are kind of dead nowadays. We need our modern version of this, which is the Costco zombie movie.
It's the equalizer of possible movies. Yeah.
Right. Romero would love that, I think.
Well, thank you for indulging us. We're going to move along to the rapid fire section now. So these are even less serious, and we call them silly at this point. They're quick, and we will hit you with these rapid fires, and we will let you know if you are right or if you are wrong. So first up, Star Trek or Star Wars?
Ooh, Star Wars.
All right, Yoda or Obi-Wan?
Yoda for sure.
Nice, good.
Last thing you ate?
Oh gosh, cashews.
Best Spider-Man actor?
Oh my god. This is a weakness of mine because I'm horrible with names.
You can say what generation of Spider-Man. We can.
I really like the latest Spider-Man.
Tom Holland.
Tom Holland.
Yes,
Yeah, Tom Holland. I think it's a good strike between funny, jovial, bubbly. Not taking itself too seriously.
What is the nerdiest event you've ever been to?
Ooh, it had to be a massive LAN party. Back in the day when we used to have those still. This group rented out 3 hotel ballrooms that were connected, and I think we've had something like 5,000 people there or something crazy.
That is huge.
Crazy.
It was massive. It was hot. It was sweaty.
It was from here. Yeah.
Smelly.
That is very nerdy.
But it was one of the funnest. It was our Woodstock.
That's awesome.
Okay,
Yes.
So it was our nerdy Woodstock.
Wow. All right. Predator or Aliens?
Ooh, I know my wife would go Alien 100%, but I'll say Predator.
What superpower do you want?
Oh man, I think the one we spoke about. I think if I can get the power from Jumper, where you can literally port to any photo, yeah,
that would be cool. Best Weird Al parody?
Oh man, I think White and Nerdy.
Yes,
it's a good one.
White and Nerdy was great. I think, yeah.
Yeah. Now, hard question here. Your favorite meal, breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Oh man, I would say breakfast. To me, no matter what time I wake up, because I have odd hours, my first meal after waking up is breakfast, and it's got to be breakfast food. So yeah, I'd say breakfast.
How many cats are too many cats?
Oh, I'd say 5. We have 3. I think 4 is manageable.
Wow.
And then 5, unless you have like a mansion or like some huge space to house them, I think it might be a little cramped for my taste.
4 cats is still a lot of cats. 3 cats is a lot of cats.
3 cats is a lot for me, but I also haven't lived with cats.
Yeah, they're loafs. You hardly see them. You almost never see all 3 of them unless it's feeding time.
Right.
So it's like having one cat 3 different ways.
Yeah. They all set up their own territory, right?
They really do.
Yeah.
They really do.
Wow.
Nice. What is the most dangerous job in your opinion?
Oh, geez. What's the most dangerous job? It it has to be like nuclear waste cleanup crew, like
Probably, yeah, it's gotta be.
something out there,
It's a slow
or
killer.
like explosive ordnance disposal, like EODs.
Mm.
You know, like
How do you have a good day, right? Like,
I'm still here. I have all my fingers. I've got all my limbs, and that's a good day.
yeah, I always thought like loss, like maybe not, just that's got to be terrible.
Like,
Kind of,
how do you have a bad day?
right?
Like,
I
Your
guess
you don't get
so.
many of
perspective
those.
would change.
You can have
quite a
only
lot.
one bad day.
Right.
All right, what character would you cosplay at a Comic Con?
Oh, Wreck-It Ralph.
Wreck-It Ralph, that's great.
Wreck-It
That would be a
Ralph,
fun
nice
one.
pull.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Not a classic yet, but still a good
Oh,
pull.
it will be in like
Mhm.
3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What Hogwarts house are you in?
Gryffindor. I identify with Gryffindor.
All right.
Yeah.
Is there any subscription you can't live without?
I tried to leave them so many times, and I even like wrote a letter about how disappointed I was in some features missing. Pandora.
Pandora,
I've been
really?
with them since
Wow.
the very early days. They have the best discovery algorithm to show you stuff that you like, but they don't have great audio quality. Like they're not incorporated with a lot of hardware. And I wrote them a letter. I was like, I've been with you forever. That's it. I'm out. And like 3 weeks later, I was subscribed again.
What was that
I
advice you gave? Do one thing really, really well,
Yeah,
right?
exactly. And see, here I am. Like I'm back because I can't get with any other platform.
I'll tell you, yeah, on that note, Spotify, I've been with Spotify for a long time, and
Mhm.
I recently hit a limit on their audiobooks. I didn't know that was possible. But
Wow.
eventually they said, hey, you've hit your allotted time limit for audiobooks. I was pissed. I was
Wow.
so pissed. I was like, how dare you get in my way of this audiobook? I'm in the
Yeah.
middle of the Lord of the Rings right now.
Oh
And
wow.
I was just like, I've been with them so long. I need to tell them. I need to leave a review. I didn't. I just
Wow.
waited until my next month, and I was
I
pissed.
feel that. I
Yeah.
feel that.
Yeah.
I think I'm on the next one actually. Or
Yeah.
did you?
No,
Yeah,
it's
okay.
you.
What do you prefer in a tabletop role playing game? Role playing or combat?
Mm. I really like the role playing. If the whole table's engaged, the role playing is a lot of fun. But if you're the only one role playing, you just feel silly after some point and you stop doing it. But I really like the role play.
Fear the AI or embrace the AI?
I think there is no stopping it.
Mm.
So fearing it doesn't going to do anything but make you feel bad. I think it's a matter of time to just embrace it and manage it as best we can.
Awesome.
What's a book recommendation that you have?
Oh, yes. Spellmonger series. It is quite long, but it is quite good. Good fantasy setting. And I kind of want to see it turned into a tabletop game. I actually reached out to the author about that, potentially working with them on some stuff.
Nice.
But Spellmonger, 100% hilarious. Great audiobook, too. Great audiobook all around.
I'll look into it.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm good on rapid fires, but I wanted to ask you, is there anyone you really want to work with in the vein of like a Spellmonger or something like that? Or is there any franchise that you would love to work with in terms of your minis and miniatures and crafting designs for?
Man, if I could pick anyone to work with in that realm, I mean, there's so many IPs that come to mind. I'm a big fan of The Witcher, right? Like getting some Witcher official stuff would be amazing. Um, I love, I love Mega Man, right? I'm a big Mega Man fan. I would love to just revisit some of the old titles we grew up with, like Donkey Kong, like just doing like Super Nintendo classics and Sega Genesis classics, Sonics and all that, and bringing them into the tabletop world. I think that's something that's missing, and a great opportunity that we should capitalize on.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love the idea of Mega Man minis. That would be super cool.
Especially with like high detail, that would
Oh,
be really cool.
very
And we
cool.
could do translucent resin for like the blaster and like
Oh,
the specs on the ground. Yeah.
that would be so neat.
Yeah.
So I want we're gonna wrap up with just a couple of questions that I think would be great just to address before we finish. Is like, it sounds like building a business is hard, especially in what you've done so far in the fairly short period of time you've been around, in 4 years, right? And it's
Mm-hmm.
impressive how much you've grown, where you've become a household name. And I can tell the passion you have for it. I'm really curious, where does the passion really come from for you?
Mm. It's, as you mentioned before, this is a rewarding business, right? I had a very lucrative position before, made plenty of money. It was very cushy, worked remote, the whole nine. It was great. Um, Now I'm on the flip side. I don't make a lot of money. I work a ton. I travel a lot for work to shows, and it's a lot of work there. But man, is it rewarding. Uh, Going out there and seeing people face to face and hearing, oh, we got, my wife got me your minis for Christmas. It was amazing. Absolutely loved it. Or, your mini was the first mini that we painted as a family, and it was my kid's mini, and he wants to gift it to you. Here it is. Like, just that connection is so rewarding. Um, and in the end, the minis are just a vehicle to deliver happiness, right? Like that's all it is. And we are creating happiness on a daily basis, and seeing that excitement, that joy, that spark of enthusiasm or passion from people that are starting to paint is huge, and it's wildly rewarding, and that fuels our passion and our drive. These shows are a huge recharge for us, and we truly could not be here without everyone that is sharing in this hobby with us.
Wow.
Those
That's
are awesome.
crazy. I mean, cons are a recharge for you too.
Mhm.
Yeah,
We
for
don't
sure.
usually hear that.
It's like
I
we used
yeah.
to call our conferences in our old sales position that I used to work in, the barbecue pit, because you would
Yeah.
fire people up, right? You would
Hmm.
get in there and you get fired up like the barbecue pit, and then you'd leave fired up and you get better results. And I think
Hmm.
there is something about, like, even though they're draining, they're tiring to probably go through, but they're
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
there's an energy that comes out of being
Yes.
at a con that is, sounds to me like it feeds you into what you're doing and makes you want to keep going.
100%.
Yeah.
I was wondering, you've talked a bunch about, what fuels you and recharges you and what's rewarding, but you've kind of danced around this a little bit and wanted to ask the sacrifices that you've had to make.
Mm.
What has been, I guess, what has been some of the sacrifices that you've had to make?
Yeah. So I was part of a long-term D&D game. I want to say we were playing for 7 years, close to it.
Wow.
Same campaign. And with being so busy, having shows, having the business, I'd be missing for a whole month. March we do 3-4 shows. I'm gone the entire month, and it wasn't fair to them to like either pause the game or have me just reappear and have to catch me up. And it wasn't fair to the DM. So like giving that up was very painful for me. Not being able to partake in that, and obviously not having that consistent check showing up, right, and not knowing um, where the next bundle of money is coming from, makes you recalibrate your lifestyle, makes you recalibrate your expectations out of life. And where we could take 2 vacations a year, maybe 1 vacation for sure a year. Since we started, we have not been able to take a vacation since probably 2018.
Wow.
So, it is a sacrifice, and it is exhausting. And running a business is going to be exhausting for a very long time until you can really scale and kind of step back. And even then, now there's more worry because now you're worried about all those people's livelihoods, right? So being an entrepreneur and running your own business is not for the faint of heart, but it can be rewarding if you make it rewarding.
Yeah. Any final advice for aspiring nerdy entrepreneurs that you would want them to leave them with out of this interview?
Yeah. Don't put off for tomorrow what you can do today. That should be your daily mantra. Clear the slate, clear the deck, start tomorrow with absolutely nothing left to do if you can, because those opportunities will come knocking and you've got to be prepared to catch it. If you're dealing with yesterday's issues and problems and deliverables, then today's opportunities are going to fall by the wayside and you're not going to grow.
Well, thank you, Patrick, for being on. This was awesome, sharing your wisdom and your story with us. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in to this week's episode. And as always,
keep it nerdy.
Well, Patrick, thank you so much for coming on. This has been awesome. If people want to get some minis, hear more from you guys, or see you at a con, where can they go?
Main way to get a hold of us is lethalshadows.com, and that's going to be our main site. You can order from there. You can order any mini there painted if you'd like, or if you want to paint your own, you can buy it unpainted. We have brushes, we have paints, we've got coasters and notebooks. We've got all sorts of good stuff. As far as shows go, 2025 is going to be a packed year. We are going to be at Emerald City Comic Con. It'll be our first customer show of the year. And then Adepticon and PAX East, Gen Con, GamesCon Canada, PAX West, PAX Unplugged. So it's going to be quite a slammed year for shows. And we'll be exhibiting at Adepticon for the first time ever, which is a very much highly requested show for us from folks. So we're giving it a shot. We're going all in. We're going to see how it goes. It's a much smaller show than we're used to going to. So we're going to see if we can make it work.
Amazing.